Hey guys, welcome to the Ramsey-Paul Show. It is Wednesday, April 9th. I'm going to adjust my mic a little bit. I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. It's supposed to be in the 70s. Uh, yeah, we had a great roundtable last night. If you're not part of my Substack, if you are part of the Substack, check it out. Let me put the link here so you guys can join it. It was great. We had a really good discussion, and Substack is my preferred way now to help support me. And hi, Zach, it's great to see you. So there's the Substack link. And every Friday, if you're a Substack member, I do a special show just for my members on Substack. So check it out. And thank you all for being here. Make sure everything's going good. X and YouTube. And is Rumble going? Let me just see if I got Rumble going here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going on Rumble. Okay, good. Everything's up. Yeah, Wednesday is a big day for Ask Now's Best. Yeah, tonight we have the Wednesday wrap up. It's one of my favorite shows. I don't know which is my favorite shows. I have a lot of fun shows I do. I love my weekly roundtables. That's every Tuesday night. But every Wednesday night, I do a collaboration with Z-Man, and we pick a topic and we kind of do a deep dive into it. Deep dive. Having trouble speaking today. We do a deep dive into a topic. And if you don't know who Z-Man is, he has Z-Man blog. He's an intelligent guy. We have a lot of good chemistry, I think, working together. And tonight we're going to talk about all the economic matters, tariffs, globalization, what everything means. It's been a crazy week because this week was the start of Liberation Day, Liberation Week, where Trump put on a whole bunch of tariffs, and we'll get into that a lot tonight. So, and how that works, I split all the super chat and revenue with Z-Man. So if you have questions, go ahead and submit them. There's a power chat below, especially for tonight. And Z-Man and I will take the questions. And how we do it, we tend to go through the show without super chats or rants. We take them, but we read them at the end. So if you want to submit some questions or comments, definitely get them in early, and I appreciate it. Now, for this show, I also appreciate it if you send super chats and rants. It helps keep the show going, and I appreciate your support. And again, YouTube has super chats, Rumble has rants, and Power Chats is a link below. And there's also Stream Elements has a tip feature. A lot of people use that. So you got a lot of different ways you can interact with the show. It's been a crazy week when it comes to economics and how everything is changing. I would put it back equivalent to when Nixon took us off the gold standard in the early 70s. After World War II, we were on Bretton Woods, and everything was backed by gold. The dollar started to become the reserve currency. Before World War II, it was a British pound sterling was the reserve currency. So it was a major shift because we ended up after World War II, the largest economy. Half the world was communism, and it worked out. It was a very prosperous time. In the 50s and 60s, we had all the manufacturing. We were the powerhouse. And then there were some problems that happened in the early 70s. We had the Vietnam War. We started to have deficits. And because our dollars were backed by gold, what that meant was back in the day, I mean, it's a little more complicated than this. But you could take your Federal Reserve note, which was what we call dollars, what you have in your billfold, right? You could take that and you could get it exchanged for the equivalent amount of gold. And we had the gold in Fort Knox. And so the gold was a really key part of the economy because it backed the dollar. And in fact, you guys ever see that James Bond movie Goldfinger? The novel actually explained it more. And what the novel was, the James Bond, was some evil guy that wants to take over the world. They planned to put a nuclear bomb in Fort Knox. And the idea is it would just totally disrupt the whole financial system because all the gold would be destroyed. They didn't show that so much in the movie, but in the novel, Fleming's novel, they kind of got into that. So that's how important gold was. But what happened because of the 60s, there was a lot of spending for various things. Johnson had the Great Society try to give more money to blacks, and welfare programs greatly expanded under Johnson. Then we had the space race, which was expensive. And then we had the Cold War with Russia, where we were trying to match them in nuclear weapons in the late 60s. And then the big one, we had a war. We were fighting in Vietnam and losing. At the time, we knew we were pretty much losing that war. That was very expensive. And so we were running a deficit. And a lot of countries, I think France was the first one that said, okay, well, what we're going to do, we're going to exchange all our dollars for gold, right? Because you said it's backed by gold. And that started a rush on our gold supplies, and it would have made things pretty unstable. So Nixon and Kissinger and all them, they got together and they're like, okay, we got to get off the gold standard. Otherwise, countries like France, it's always the French, those devious bastards. We got to put a stop to that. So they took us off the dollar, but then it's like, well, what's going to back the dollar then, right? We don't want, if we're going to run a deficit, we have to have dollars that are in demand. And they had a really clever idea. It really was. They decided to base it on oil. And how it worked, we got with Saudi Arabia, who was the leader of OPEC, and we were able to bribe them, threaten them, and made a good deal for both of us, saying, hey, we will protect you in your interests. You don't have to worry about our best little friend in the Middle East attacking you, and we'll give you a lot of weapons, and we will provide for your defense. And your sheiks, you can go to Las Vegas and get, blonde prostitutes and all that. and we're down with that. But in exchange, we want you to demand that you only take dollars to sell oil. And not only you, but all the OPEC nations. And Saudi Arabia was the leader of OPEC, and they said, okay, we'll do that. So because of that, and pretty much every economy needs oil, right? Even more than gold. Oil drives everything. Sorry, you green fans. If we ever ran out of oil, that'd be the end of civilization. Humans may still exist, but like 90% of the world would starve because it's in your fertilizer, everything. So everyone needs oil. And to get oil, you have to pay it in dollars. So to get dollars, you have to exchange your currency for dollars. So that started the Nixon transition. It was huge transition, and as we are today. Now it's interesting, the parallels. I don't know if you guys ever think about it, but now we spending a lot of money, just like in the 60s, especially under Biden, all these welfare projects. And we are in a war, not officially, but we're in a proxy war with Russia that Biden started. And we've been deeply involved in the war with Ukraine more than most people realize. Like all the tactics and the counterattacks and all that was planned by the United States generals. And all the weapons came from the United States. So we spent a lot of money on that. And we're trying to wind that war down now. And we're trying to find some peace with honor. I mean, it really echoes back to the late 60s, early 70s. Nixon knew we got to wind this war down in Vietnam, but how do we do it so it doesn't look bad? And they talked a lot about negotiations, peace with honor. That was a big thing back then. I was just a little kid, but I barely remember that. And we're doing the same thing now with Ukraine, because Russia's winning. So how do we get negotiated settlement that lets us save face? And we're pissing away so much money there. So it is kind of an interesting parallel. So we're having a fundamental change now because of tariffs, which are going to end the economic model I believe we've been in for quite a long time. And it's pretty drastic that because of these tariffs, instead of globalism, which everyone thought would be the way forward forever, we are now going back to a different world. And I think this icon, this chart or graph really kind of shows the situation that has happened. Uh, Hang on here. I accidentally hit the wrong thing. God dang it. Uh, just sorry about that, guys. I had a quick technical issue there. I think I got that fixed now. So apologize that. Let me share this screen for you. Uh, do, 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 uh, Let me see if I can bring this up. Uh, Hang on here. All right, hang on. I'll be right back in a minute. I got some technical issues I got to solve. I'll be right back. All right, I should be back here. Sorry about that. I just had a quick technical issue. So what I was going to do is show you a chart that shows some of the problems that we're having now that I think it kind of shows everything. And let's see here. Here it is. This is showing the global output, manufacturing output, the comparison chart. And you see how much China is such a huge bubble sphere compared to the United States. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even the 80s, United States, we were the leading manufacturer. But you see how things got out of balance. And this is showing BRICS versus non-BRICS. So like China, Russia, India, but it's mostly China is the issue. And that's what we got to keep an eye on with these tariffs. So what happened here is a couple things. Is we had some let me see here. Do I got a chat? Yeah, we had a things that got out of whack with trading with China. If you go to Walmart, pretty much everything is from China. And it brought in cheap goods, but it's also created a lot of displacements that I've talked about, sending jobs overseas and so forth. And it's created a potential security threat. Like if we want to get into a war with China, we're going to have an issue because we don't have the manufacturing or industrial base anymore. And that's a problem. So something had to be done to get manufacturing back in the United States. And the only way to really do that is through tariffs, and specifically with China. But obviously, the problem with that is we get so much now with China is how do we unravel that? Now, what is sort of interesting is it looked like that the markets would really crash. And on the Monday, it was a huge down day. Yesterday, it broke about even. It was down a little bit. And then today started out looking like it was going to be a disaster. But as of right now, this is Wednesday at 11:17 a.m. Central. Yeah, well, let me just show you. The market is actually up a little bit, the Dow Jones. So, and again, the market isn't necessarily everything, but here it is. So it's up, just a little bit today. So it'll be interesting how the market unwinds all this. There's a lot of conflicting things that are happening. One thing is the tariffs with China, but then Trump is trying to eliminate capital gains tax. That will be really good for the market. But the problem is in the short term is how we deal with all these tariffs. And part of the issue is not so simple as, let's say, a toy manufacturer's in China. Well, yeah, we can make toys in the United States, but in order to create a factory, you just don't do that overnight, right? You got to have the capital development, build it, and so forth. And that takes time. And let's say you already have a company in the United States, so you don't have tariffs on you. So that's good. But in a company, you typically will import some of your tools or some of your raw material from China. And now China has put a tariff on, so that's going to impact your costs too. So I think we're going to be going through a really rough time initially. And even though the stock market has kind of leveled out, I don't think this will necessarily be for good. We got some issues here. And let's just take a look. We are in a full-scale trade war with China. China, not surprisingly, they responded with their own tariffs. It started with the White House because we put on tariffs. China got mad and put on, I think our tariffs were 50%. And then China responded with their tariffs. And then we responded by raising our tariffs to 104%. And so with China, it's becoming a huge battle here. And China has responded by raising their tariffs on the United States to like 80 some percent. So it's going back and forth, and we'll have to see what will shake out here. And we got some commentary on this by investors and so forth that have dealt with China and their shady practices. So let's take a look.
Very eloquently. Yeah, Kevin, he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts.
That's part of their culture. When I was in business, I learned years ago, my boss told me about, that's a Chinese handshake. And I asked, what does that mean? It means, well, it's not the Western concept we used to have. Your word is your bond. So if you shake your hands with another man for a deal, you're honor bound to abide by the deal. Now, some people, there'd be scoundrels that wouldn't, but those people, they were the exception. But in China, that culture, They have a culture of cheating. They don't keep their word. India is the same way. You can't trust them at all. And that's how they operate.
They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals.
Well, the government's a reflection of the people, though.
And finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric. Finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
So this is a game of chicken, because the idea is China is more dependent on us than we are on China, because they export mostly to the United States. And if they can no longer to export to the United States, they will have mass layoffs. Their economy will crash. It could create economic problems in China and political problems, and with the Communist Party. So the idea is that China will give in first. I'm not really sure. I mean, this is in a way, it was ironic, because when I was a young kid, China was real backwards. They were under communism, Mao. And then I don't know, was it the early 80s, they got a new leader that decided to open up the economy. I mean, it's still the Communist Party, but they have basic capitalism. And then people in the United States wanted trade deals because they had a big population and you could make things cheap over there. And they don't have any workers' health or safety concerns. The worker gets squished, big deal. I mean, there's like a billion of them like ants everywhere, so they don't really care. And so that's why, Apple went to China, and everyone else did too, a lot of people. But that could potentially changing now. And let's take a look at some more commentary on this. So from the Treasury Secretary concerning China.
Actually don't want, Maria, I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese actually don't want to.
So China responded by imposing 84% tariffs on U.S. goods. But again, we don't export much to China anyway. So in this battle, it's going to hurt China more.
Come and negotiate, because they are the worst offenders in the international trading system. They have the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world. And I can tell you that this escalation is a loser for them. That they have some very smart, the economists, the academicians, technocrats within their bureaucracy, and they would be telling the leadership that we do not have the edge here. They are the surplus country, that their exports to the U.S. are 5 times our exports to China. So they can raise their tariffs, but so what? Maria?
Well, I guess the so what, to be fair, is if they raise their tariffs, well, we do export to China, so that's not, I don't think that will be the huge deal. The problem is in the United States, again, companies that rely on parts from China, the parts are going to be a lot more expensive now. Or what if there's a total trade ban? Then we got a problem. But that's a problem for United States national security. We saw that during COVID. Remember, a lot of the pharmaceuticals or even the masks, they came from China, and how dependent we became on China was not a good thing. So that needs to be straightened out, and that's what the tariffs are trying to do. And if you take a look at where all the tariffs stand now across the countries, and I don't know if these are going to be permanent. And one of the big questions is this a new way of the world, or is this a new negotiating tactic by Trump to try to get better deals? Because you heard Trump saying, or at least it was reported, he said all these countries are coming to him, trying to kiss his ass, trying to work out a new deal. So one theory is we put these tariffs on because other countries historically have had tariffs on us, but we don't have tariffs on them. So Trump said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. So it could be a negotiating ploy of, okay, we'll put tariffs on you. If you get rid of your tariffs, we'll remove ours. That could be a way. And we've already seen some countries like Vietnam come to the United States. Hey, we'll make 0 tariffs. We'll get rid of our tariffs if you get rid of yours. But I don't think the administration has taken that deal. This could be something a little bit bigger. And I think it is bigger, just understanding Trump. This isn't just some wild, wacky idea he came up with last week or last month or even last year. Trump, even back in the 80s, and you can see YouTube videos of him, he talks about how tariffs are very important for a healthy economy. And he loves to go back to the late 19th century McKinley. We had a lot of tariffs. America really became prosperous. The tariffs helped protect our industry, and we became an economic giant. And Trump, right or wrong, credits tariffs for doing that. And also tariffs have an ability of raising revenue. So China, for example, it's not like they're not going to stop exporting to the United States. They still need to sell stuff here, but now they have to pay a lot of money into to the United States government, which is the Treasury. And so there's some thought that Trump, hey, if we get all this extra money revenue via tariffs, why do we have to have an income tax? If we get enough money from these countries, we may be able to eliminate the income tax. Or how about a refund? So we get all this money from tariffs, and then he turns around and every citizen, not illegal, but citizen, let's say, gets a $10,000 check. I saw that, or like a $13,000 check. And he said, hey, we got all this revenue coming in. Here you guys, $13,000 if you're a citizen. And that would be another way to encourage real citizens instead of illegals. That's a possibility too. And I don't think this is just a negotiating ploy by Trump saying, okay, these are going to be temporary, and this is just my way to get every other country to lower their tariffs. I think this is a little bit the way a total restructuring of our economy, where it's going to be tariff based. And you're right, because if you have tariffs, then a lot of the consumer items will be more expensive, because Walmart is going to be more expensive of them to get the Chinese junk in here. So they're going to have to pass the cost to you. That is true. But at the same time, then more revenue goes into the Treasury. Theoretically, you could lower our income taxes. We'll have to see how this pans out. But this is pretty much every country in the world has tariffs on them. Some people made a big to-do that like North Korea and Russia is not on this list, but those or Iran, but those countries are under sanctions, and they made a point. It doesn't really make sense to put tariffs on a country that we're sanctioning already. So, but that could happen. If we ever drop the sanctions, they would get tariffs. But China's a big one. I really think most of this deals with China, because if you look at that first graph I showed you about the size of the manufacturing, China dwarfs even the United States. And that could be a problem. So I think this is going to be the way we go forward here. I don't think this is just a temporary thing. And we'll have to see how this plays out, and how the game of chicken plays out. And again, China, they responded with their own tariffs. And here we go, showing China. China responds to 104% tariff with an 84% tariff on all U.S. imported goods. Again, as the Treasury Secretary noted, we import a lot more from China than we export. So if China wants to play this game, we can keep upping the tariffs on China, so they almost don't have customers anymore in the United States, which would cause a crisis in China. And I think that's what the United States is betting on. I got a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. And sorry, guys, earlier in the program, I had a technical difficulty. I know, boomer tack. So, but we're done. All the taxes cost money. If we lower income tax equal to tariff costs, it won't hurt the taxpayers. Just raise the standard deductions. All taxes cost money. If we lower the income tax equal to the tariff cost, it won't hurt the taxpayers. Just raise the standard deduction. I personally would love to see the elimination of the income tax, and I again will believe it when I see it. But I think this would be a fair trade-off if things are a little bit more expensive at Walmart because of the tariffs. You, though, don't have to pay income tax. I think this would benefit people that work, though. And so how this works, there's a lot of moving pieces here, because if you don't pay taxes anyway, this won't help you, right? There's a big segment of our population. I was surprised. It's like half the people in this country don't pay income tax. I don't know if you guys know that. That's just the case. So eliminating the income tax wouldn't help them. And a lot of those people, they shop like at Walmart, and this would hurt them because the prices are going to go up. But on the flip side, because of tariffs, Trump has been pretty clear. Well, you don't have to pay tariffs if you build stuff in the United States. So theoretically, this will create, oh shit, we got to, like a call center. Instead of in India, let's put it in Fort Wayne, Indiana, or instead of building shoes in China or Vietnam, let's build them in Arkansas or Kansas. And theoretically, that would provide jobs. Now, how many jobs? I don't know, because of automation and an AI, but some. And the jobs will come in, so that will help revitalize like the heartland. And I think this is a prime driver for Trump and J.D. Vance, is how to improve the heartland of America. And there's going to be some trade-offs. And I'm actually surprised that the market futures were so down coming into today, but then it went up quite a bit. So right now the Dow Jones is up. So yesterday it closed about even. I guess it was a little bit down. So it hasn't been as dramatic as people thought. But again, it's still early, and we'll have to see how this shakes out. I mean, maybe it's the markets think that Trump will pull back these tariffs. Or maybe, it will, because of the ending capital gains tax potentially, this will be a good place, for the market. Some of the stuff that's already causing issues, though, Walmart, they pulled back their forecasted earnings because of tariffs are going to mess that up a little bit. And Amazon cancels inventory orders from China due to tariffs. So Amazon gets a lot from China, and we'll have to see how this plays out. But that is going to definitely have an impact. Stephen Miller talks a little bit about this. Let's take a look at Stephen Miller and get his input. I like Stephen Miller. He's one of my favorite guys in the Trump administration. So let's take
to the table for the simple reason that I believe that China will be forced very soon to come to the table for the simple reason that China's economy is completely dependent on its exports to the United States and to the West. China has built its entire industrial strategy since its entrance into the World Trade Organization on being able to sell highly subsidized, currency manipulated, dumped goods into U.S. markets. It is an industrial strategy from China to product dump strategically to take out American steel, to take out American aluminum, to take out core American defense industries and defense needs.
So Stephen Miller, this is one of the arguments for tariffs, is if we just have a total free market, so-called free trade, all the steel manufacturing will end up in China. Already that's happened to Britain. They don't make steel anymore. And a lot of the key manufacturing. And then if that happens, if there should be a war, there's no way we could defend ourselves because we don't have the industrial capacity. And that's a key part of a war, even more than the soldiers, is having the industry behind you. And that's why Britain, they're talking tough to Russia. Stupid. They no longer have an industrial base, so they can't fight a war. And if we care about our national defense, forget all about helping people get good jobs and all that, or eliminating the income tax. Just for national security, we need steel mills, we need industrial production.
On being able to sell highly subsidized, currency manipulated, dumped goods into U.S. markets. It is an industrial strategy from China to product dump strategically to take out American steel, to take out American aluminum, to take out core American defense industries and defense needs, so that we're reliant on China. And what's happening here is that China is now discovering for the first time that they have met an American president who is not going to be intimidated, who's not going to be bullied, who's not going to be coerced, who's going to stand up for our essential security needs. I believe.
So that was framing it into security needs. There is some, again, I think, confusion. Again, is this going to be permanent, or is Trump saying, hey, you come to the table, negotiate something better with us, we'll remove the tariffs? And I'm not really sure what, because we're getting mixed signals there. But I think this is I think Trump wants tariffs to be permanent. And I think that's the way it will be. I don't see the tariffs going away anytime soon. And we had financial problems anyway before Trump got in, because we just spend way too much than we take in. Donald Trump posted today, this is a great time to move your company into the United States of America, like Apple and so many others in record numbers are doing. 0 tariffs. And but the problem is a lot of these companies still get some parts from China, so that's going to impact their costs. And almost immediate electrical energy hookups and approvals, no environmental delays. Don't wait, do it now. So obviously, President Trump is encouraging companies to relocate to America. And I think companies, I used to work in the corporate world, they're going to have to try to figure out, is this a temporary thing or this is a long-term thing? And this is where we need a little bit better clarity, I think, from the administration, because I'm not really sure, because we hear from some of Trump's team saying, well, this is going to force China to the negotiating table. Well, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean the tariffs may go off? Because if the tariffs go off, then companies are going to say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to relocate my factory to America. And then the tariffs go away. And then I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? I need to get the cheap labor again. I shouldn't have relocated to America. I guess I'll have to shut down my American factory like I did back in the 80s or 90s and build it again in China, or send it to China. So companies, they don't like uncertainty. So they got to figure out, is this the new way? Is this the future? If this is the future, companies tend to be unemotional. They just look at the bottom line and they'll say, yeah, it's too expensive to have this built in China, and other countries have tariffs too. Yeah, we'll bring it back to the United States. But if they think it's temporary, they won't. So that is part of their issue. Now, J.D. Vance talked about this, and he got the Chinese mad because he called some of their people peasants. Like, I don't really care. I mean, some of these people are peasants, but let's just take a look at this here. Um, and again, JD Vance, I think, also supports Trump on this. JD Vance, he was raised in, he was born in Kentucky, the Appalachia, kind of a white trash family, was raised in Ohio. He saw how free trade just took out all the jobs in those communities.
If you go back a little bit, Lawrence, remember during the first Trump administration, everybody said that Trump's tariffs were going to be inflationary back then. What actually happened? We had 1.5% inflation. We had the fastest growing economy in a generation, and we had the beginning of a manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America. Then, of course, we had 4 terrible years of the Biden administration. But I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on 2 principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America. For 40 years, we have gone down that pathway. We've seen closing factories. We've seen rising inflation. We've seen the cost of housing so high that most Americans can't afford to buy a home right now.
And I talked about this in my video today. If you haven't seen that, check it on YouTube or Rumble or on my Substack. This is a very generational thing. The so-called free trade has been good for the older generation because it's increased inflated asset values, and stocks are an asset, but so's homes, right? They're an asset. So and I'm not picking on the boomers. I'm doing all this disclaimer because any generation would have done this. But, if you're a boomer in the corporate world and they're talking about they want to outsource jobs, but hey, if you play along, your job's not going to be impacted. It's just the new jobs, and we'll give you a bonus. And we're going to outsource your jobs to China, or not, we're going to outsource the manufacturing in China. So, hey, you can go to Walmart, TVs are cheaper now. So it improves your standard of living. And then because we're running this debt and all this money, asset prices go up, but you already own your home, right? You got in the 70s or 80s. Man, you're sitting pretty now, right? You bought your home for $120,000. Now it's worth $800,000. Don't you feel rich? Same with stocks. And you put your money on 401ks that keep going up. So it's been really good for a certain segment of the population. But really what's happening, and is creating a lot of generational angst, is a lot of young people, and I hear it on my roundtable and stuff, the young people, they don't care about the boomers 401ks. They're pissed because there's no jobs. When the boomers were young, they had jobs here in America. Now there's no good jobs because they've been exported, and they can't get into the homes because there's been huge inflation in asset values. So this is a real issue that's in a way, again, the so-called free trade has been good for a lot of people, no doubt. It's been easy. Your stocks go up, your house values going up, everything's cheaper. Instead of paying a white teenager to mow your lawn, you can have some illegal do it. I get it, but it's not healthy for the nation
right now. President Trump is taking this economy in a different direction. He ran on that, he promised it, and now he's delivering. And yes, this is a big change. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we needed a big change, Lawrence. We cannot keep going down the Joe Biden globalist pathway where we have $2 trillion of peacetime debt and deficits. We have manufacturing disappearing. That is not working for Americans. We've got to take this country in a different direction.
Yeah, and we see that with other countries. The globalist model does not raise most countries. I mean, it's good for China, maybe Vietnam, but look at the case in Canada. They've destroyed. Canada used to be pretty prosperous, but they bought into all this. Now all their jobs have been exported. They've imported like infinity in Indians and Muslims, and now they're in a horrible economic situation. Same with Britain. So the globalism hasn't maintained their promises. It's been very difficult with that. All right. So that was JD Vance talking about that. And I guess the Chinese got mad because he said the word peasant, but I mean, that's what they are. I don't know why they upset about it. And the Treasury Secretary talking a little bit more about this. Let's take a look at this.
At the expense, for too long, financial policy has served large financial institutions at the expense of smaller ones.
Yeah, I mean, our entire economy's been good for Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and all that, but it hasn't really helped the Main Street USA.
No more. No more. This administration aims to give all banks the chance to succeed, whether it's JP Morgan or your local mortgage and loan. It aims to get capital to Americans who need it by getting bureaucracy out of the way. For the last 4 decades, basically since I began my career in Wall Street has grown wealthier than ever before, and it can continue to grow and do well. But for the next 4 years, the Trump agenda is focused on Main Street. It's Main Street's turn. It's Main Street's turn to hire workers. It's Main Street's turn to drive investment. And it's Main Street's turn to restore the American dream.
I think they realized a lot of our economy became fake. It's all about financialization and all sorts of fake stuff. And I think we're going away from that now. And they understand we can't make our economy just on Ponzi schemes or opening up casinos, drugs, marijuana shops, or OnlyFans. It's got to be something substantial. Pam, hi, thank you. A rant, I appreciate it. I read that Amazon has started canceling orders from China. Yeah, I showed that. Do you think Bezos and others were clued in about the trade war coming and maybe asked to play a part in putting pressure on China? That could be. Obviously, they knew it was coming. I mean, Trump didn't hide it. He talked about tariffs the whole time. So maybe people didn't think it would actually happen, but I would have no doubt that they understood part of it. And again, companies, they will adapt. They'll do what they have to do. It's all about bottom line. And sometimes it's more than that because they get political pressure like DEI. DEI didn't help their bottom line, but they were pressured into that. In a sense, it had to do with bottom line because if they didn't meet the DEI goals, the government would come after them. But in general, they don't care. So if it's because companies, the way they look at this is like, well, if we don't build our product in China where it's cheap, our competitor will, then our competitor will have the advantage. We don't like it as Americans. It's not good for America, but if we don't do it, the competitor would do that. I know that because I heard that when I was in the IT industry. I often thought, this isn't a really good thing to lay off people's jobs, Americans, and give them to Indians. Is hurting these communities. They pay taxes here. Their kids live here. And the response is, well, yeah, but if we don't do it, our IBM will do it. So we got to do it to compete. It's a shitty way to do it. This is why you have to have a government that helps put the people first. So that is it. So that was the Treasury's secretary talking about Main Street. And one surprise, I think, to a lot of people is even our best little friend wasn't spared the tariffs. So let's take a look about this here.
Well, we're talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. We give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot.
Yeah, this is bold. We give Israel more than any other country. Well, now we probably give more to Ukraine, but in general, Israel gets most of our foreign aid, which I won't go into why. I think we know why. But Trump's reminding Netanyahu they're already on the dole. Israel's kind of, we get free healthcare in Israel. Yeah, thanks to the United States taxpayer.
Congratulations, by the way. That's pretty good.
I love how Trump's sarcastic. Congratulations how you're able to scam us out of all that money.
But we give Israel billions of dollars a year. Billions.
Yeah. And so, this is interesting because Trump loves Israel more than life itself. But because Trump said he may not reduce tariffs on Israel because we give Israel billions a year anyway. So that's interesting. That's kind of interesting how that came about. And it's not what a lot of people would expect. So if Trump believes in tariffs even more than he does in Israel, that is something. That is something. I think he's serious about it. Let's see here. Let's see. Do we have any other stuff here? Oh, speaking of Israel, we'll talk to the girl boss of Europe. I thought this was kind of funny. What are the values of Europe? I guess she lays it out here. This isn't surprising. I kind of agree with her. The current EU, this is their values. So let's take a look.
Europe is the values of the Talmud, the Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
Yeah, so I agree. European is now more of a Jewish construct. Europe used to be more Christian, but now it doesn't have those values anymore. So I agree with her. I mean, this is a statement of fact. That's how it is. All right. We did enough of like economic. Let me go over a few other things that happened. Obviously, economics and the tariffs a big issue. And guys, remember tonight at 7 p.m., please turn in. It's so much fun. I'm getting so much good feedback about our Wednesday wrap up with Z-Man. We're going to talk about tariffs, the whole economy. He's really smart. He's in the business world. He can give some insights. And be sure to tune in tonight. If you have questions beforehand, send in a power chat or on Stream Elements. It has a tip feature, and we will get your question. I promise. And that helps, keep the show running. And I split all on my Wednesday night show. I split all the super chats and rants with Z-Man. So you're helping to support him too. I appreciate that. All right. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, this is a good plan that Trump has and I've talked about this. This is one of the problems is, okay, how in the hell do you get all these illegals out of this country? That's the tricky part. Now, stopping illegals turned out to be extremely easy. That was easy. Trump stopped it on like day one, right? You just enforce the border. And with Biden, oh, we can't do that. We got to send Kamala down there. Oh, it's just too complicated to figure out. Yeah, well, Trump figured it out on day one. Now, the next problem is how do we get them out? And I've always, obviously you can have deportation teams round these people up and send them out, but that's expensive. And then you have to deal with these shitlib federal district judges and the media, they want a, crying baby to put on TV. I don't give a shit. That doesn't bother me. I just say, yes, send the kids back with mama and dada. Send them back. But a lot of people don't like that. So mostly we're going to get rid of the illegals through self-deportation. And Trump's really encouraging that. And one of the ways they're doing this is the Trump administration is going to fine illegal immigrants $998 per day if they ignore deportation orders, utilizing a 1996 law to enforce these penalties. I think that would have been under Bill Clinton. It's interesting because if you look at Bill Clinton in the 90s, he was against these open borders too. Non-compliance could also lead to property seizure. So if you're an illegal here and you don't get your hell out of our country, we're going to fine you $1,000 a day. And if you don't pay up, we'll just seize your bank accounts or seize your pickup truck with the fuzzy dice or your lowrider. We're going to seize that and sell it at auction. So if you want to keep your bouncy lowrider and fuzzy dice, you need to head back to Mexico. Head back to Mexico and be with the cartels, but you're not welcome here. So this is a good way to try to get people deported. I think I like it. I do support that. And part of the issue that Doge has uncovered is really scandalous, is how much your Social Security is supposed to be. Remember, Social Security was not a welfare act. It was supposed to be you put into Social Security your whole life, and then you get it out when you retire. But these bastards, they started to give it to other people, not just the people that put into it over the years. And this happened with illegals, they've been giving Social Security numbers to provide for all this. Let's take a look
Fox
at
to reveal what's really going on. Doge exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says 207.
We need to, first of all, those Social Security numbers need to be removed. And all these illegals say you no longer have Social Security. You're not a citizen. You do not get Social Security. You can't work in this country. If you should get a job in this country, we are going to confiscate the business. So if you own a construction company and you hire illegals, you won't own it long. The government will seize it and sell it to someone else. And illegals, so you're not going to get a job, and you're not going to get our goddamn Social Security that we put in for 30 years. Grandma's not going to have her Social Security cut because you jumped the border and now we're getting Social Security. Go to hell. You're not going to do that anymore. You're going back to Mexico. And these Social Security numbers, look at this, how many we've issued. And in 2024, the last year under Biden, over 2 million Social Security numbers were issued to illegal aliens. This needs to be revoked. We just got to revoke these numbers, say, no, you don't get this anymore. You're not getting Social Security. You're not getting shit because you shouldn't be here. You're illegal. You should be happy you're not in a prison cell. That's what you should be happy. And if you don't get out, we're going to fine you $1,000 a day and we'll confiscate your lowrider and your fuzzy dice. So you better just, here's the highway. We'll give you a map to get back to Mexico or Venezuela or wherever. You got here illegally. Yeah, it just doesn't go one direction. If you came here, you can get the hell out.
70,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. Doge also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and Doge says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying. He's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk. Fox to reveal what's...
Yeah, that is shocking. Actually, I would like to put Biden on trial for that. This is treason. But we got to get rid of these people, take away their numbers, say, get the fuck out of our country. You shouldn't be here in the first place. And you're not getting a dime of grandma's Social Security. Yeah, go back to your own country, get Social Security from your own country. And if your country's a shithole, well, try to be better people and make a better country there. Not here. You're not going to pull us down. That's got to be the message. It's ridiculous that we have to do this. It's just ridiculous, but this is where we are. So, yeah, it's been a fun show today. Thank you all for supporting me. Again, tonight, I look forward to it. Wednesday night, I'm going to set up the show right after this show, and I'll put out the link here it'll be on X, and it'll be on YouTube and Rumble, and on Substack, you'll get the link too. But we'll do that tonight at 7 with Z-Man. I'm really looking forward to the show. Send your questions in early on the Power Chat or Stream Elements, and we'll get to it. And I'm excited about it. So thank you guys, and have a good day. Talk to you guys later.